is rescued after a small plane lands in the water near Tommy Thompson Park. We just received an update from police. We're going to have the latest coming up.
In another blow to the auto sector, General Motors is getting ready to cut its third shift at the Oshawa assembly plant, citing Trump's tariffs. The union says 750 workers will lose their jobs. We have more on the impact.
And Mark Carney holds his first news conference since Monday's election, and a Conservative MP in Alberta gives up his seat to allow Pierre Poilievre to run in a by-election. We've got the latest out of the nation's capital.
Plus, the Battle of Ontario is over after the Leafs clinched a win in last night's Game 6. But now they're on to the next challenge, taking on Florida in round 2.
You're watching Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Live at 5. A man was rescued after his small plane crashed into Lake Ontario near the Leslie Street Spit.
At CP24, Steve Vaughan joins us with the latest. Steve.
Yeah, Bakari and Lena, this goes to show you the protocols, the emergency protocols that are put into place with all EMS and with the Air Traffic Control Center over at Billy Bishop Airport. It shows you that they work. Today after 2 o'clock, the Air Traffic Control contacted the Marine unit and told them that they'd lost all contact with a small private plane that had just left Billy Bishop, was on its way to Pembroke, and there was a 49-year-old doctor as the only occupant in that plane. The plane, because the engines failed, came down into the lake, and it had a parachute on the tail of the plane. That absorbed the impact when it hit the lake, and the pilot was rescued by both the Marine unit and by other boaters that were out on Lake Ontario. Now, earlier on, we heard from the duty inspector, and he provided us with some information with regards to this occurrence, and here's what he said.
No, I can tell you that he was actually on his way to Pembroke, Ontario. So obviously, just within a short distance there, he lost power, apparently, and then he made his way back to the Billy Bishop. He was attempting to land back in the Billy Bishop Airport. Unfortunately, he couldn't, so he obviously, with the Cirrus, the aeroplane, my understanding is fairly state-of-the-art aeroplane there, he was able to eject a parachute from the plane. So that's why plane, obviously, the parachute was deployed before it hit the water.
Duty inspector said that the plane is at the bottom of the lake right now, and Marine unit are working with Transport Canada, and perhaps tomorrow they'll work on getting that plane out from the bottom of the lake and have it inspected. Send it back to you guys.
Okay, incredibly lucky that that man is okay. Steve, thanks so much for this. And CTV's aviation specialist, Phil Dirty, says video from the scene shows the plane was equipped with a parachute.
The aircraft ballistic recovery system was invented about 1982. And what it is a ballistic parachute that's attached to the back of the aircraft. And if the aircraft has an engine failure or is in distress, what they can do is they can pull the handle in the cockpit and deploy the parachute, and it brings the aircraft down, floats it down safely to the ground. And one of the things on the Cirrus aircraft, it has been incorporated since 2003. So it's a really good piece of equipment to have on the aircraft.
Well, police have been trying to figure out how and why a cube van wound up in the water. This is near a boat launch in Mississauga today.
The vehicle was found submerged in the area of Lakefront Promenade, south of Cathra and Lakeshore Road, shortly before 6 o'clock this morning. Crews pulled it from the water a few hours later. Police say no one was in the vehicle, and they are continuing to investigate.
And one person's been taken to hospital after a stabbing at the downtown Hamilton Mosque. And police say this happened around 2:15 this afternoon. That's when there was an altercation outside of the building that eventually moved inside.
Yeah, 2 other people have non-life-threatening injuries. Police are also looking for 2 suspects. And investigators say early information suggests it wasn't a hate-motivated incident, and the victims and suspects know each other.
Well, the second man's been charged in the death of a Markham woman last summer, while charges against the first suspect have been upgraded.
57-year-old Ying Zhang went missing from the Woodbine and Steelcase Road area back on July 25th. Investigators found her body in Kawartha Lakes 4 days later. 26-year-old Changlin Yang was originally charged with second-degree murder, but is now facing a first-degree murder charge. York police also say 53-year-old Fred Hui Li was also charged with first-degree murder, and there are no outstanding suspects at this time.
And Peel police have made an arrest in a brazen daylight shooting. This left one man dead in Brampton.
The victim was shot in a vehicle in the parking lot of a plaza near Bramalea and Dewside Road near Sandalwood Parkway on the afternoon of April 1st. He was pronounced dead at the scene on Tuesday of this week. Police executed a search warrant at a residence in the area of Airport Road and Humber West Parkway. 30-year-old Balreeth Singh Gill was taken into custody and is now charged with second-degree murder. York Regional Police are appealing for witnesses after an arson in Vaughan last month.
Investigators have released this security camera video of the incident. This happened April 5th. This was at a plaza parking lot near Stills and Young. So the footage shows a white Honda Odyssey enter the parking lot, stopping near a BMW. A suspect gets out of the passenger side of the Odyssey, pours something onto the BMW, and then sets the car on fire. So police are seeking help identifying the suspect, and they're asking anyone with information to please come forward.
Well, the Crown and defense want 15 months probation for a teen girl who pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the swarming death of a Toronto man who was homeless.
Yeah, the girl who was 16 at the time of Kenneth Lee's killing. This was December of 2022. Was originally charged with second-degree murder. Her lawyers maintain that she was not the one who fatally stabbed Lee. The judge is set to sentence her, May 16th. 8 teenage girls were charged in the case. 6 have pleaded guilty to lesser charges, 4 to manslaughter, 1 to assault, and 1 to assault with a weapon and assault causing bodily harm.
5:06, 20 degrees, feeling more like 21 out there. Let's get a check on the Friday evening commute with our traffic specialist, Adjoa and Bois. Adj.
Oh, good afternoon, Lena Bukhari. And it has been a slow go out there on the major routes, and problems happening now into Vaughan, northbound on the 400. This is right at the 407. Crews dealing with a collision that does have the left lane as well as that left shoulder blocked. And again, it is really, really backed up now as you make your way off the 401. Once you're on the 401, my cameras keep going out, but we have problems on the 401 eastbound. It's in the collectors right on the approach to Warden. Find the right lane blocked with the crash. Problems I can see happening on the northbound lanes of the Don Valley Parkway. Just as you make your way through Lawrence, it is a stall. It does have the left lane blocked. The good news, emergency crews are on scene and outside of camera view. Paid a bit of extra money on the eastbound lanes of the 407. This is just near Weston Road. We have a collision. It does have the right lane occupied. I'll send it back to you both.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
General Motors says that it's planning to cut the third shift at its Oshawa plant, citing updated demand forecasts and also the evolving trade environment.
Yeah, for a closer look at what this means for workers and the community, let's go live to CP24's Melissa Duggan. You've been speaking with some workers today, and they're devastated.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a major blow to the local automaking community here in Oshawa. And certainly Canada's automaking sector has been under pressure since Donald Trump returned to the Oval Office. A lot of people holding their breath. And then this news coming today, we're learning from GM that they are going from 3 shifts to 2 shifts. What that means is that more than 700 jobs are on the line. We're looking at layoffs here in about 6 months' time, beginning sometime in the fall. And certainly that has been a tough pill to swallow here. You know, we're not just talking about 700 workers, we're talking about their livelihoods, we're talking about their families as well. And certainly the union representing workers has been devastated by this. Not only does this affect the 700 plus direct jobs, but they've also been talking about the roughly 1,500 indirect jobs, thinking about people who work in the automotive parts industry that are also part of this sector. They will be impacted as well. I want to share more reaction, what we're getting from Local 222 today, how some of this news was shared with workers. Have a listen.
This is devastating. The company called in the employees this morning for individual meetings, for shift meetings, and they're letting everybody know. They informed everybody at 10 after 6 this morning about the third shift that's going to be leaving Oshawa. And as a union, we're devastated. I mean, these folks build a high-quality truck. They got great productivity. They're dependable. We're reliable. That truck should be here in Oshawa, and we're not okay with losing these units to the United States. And myself and Chairperson Chris Waugh, we're looking for a solution. We're not going to accept our membership losing their jobs. We're not accepting that.
We're hearing from GM today, some of their reasoning, what they say is behind this move. They're pointing to a couple of major factors, one of them being forecasted demand for the vehicle that's made here, but also the ongoing trade environment. Looking to this U.S. trade war, these tariffs, certainly we've heard about this 25% tariff on vehicles made in Canada going into the U.S. Certainly some carve-outs that have been mentioned for different parts that are involved, different aspects of the vehicle that may not be from Canada, that may include some savings. But despite all of this, we are seeing these impacts here on the local industry. Now, this also reaches beyond the automotive sector as well. A lot of local businesses depend on people who are working at these plants to spend money in the community. That includes this business owner who is also expecting an impact.
We do a lot of business with GM, and anytime people start to lose their jobs, the first thing they cut out is spending at restaurants. And, next year's our 50th anniversary operating in this business. And, GM's been a huge contribution to our success there.
As for reaction from workers, we've stopped a lot of people here that were either arriving for their shift or leaving from their shift today. A lot of people don't want to talk to media today, and you definitely have to respect that. This is some tough news that is being shared, but certainly some people saying, you can imagine how we're feeling today, that this is devastating, a major blow again to this local industry. Back to you.
All right, Melissa Duggan live in Oshawa for us tonight. Melissa, thanks so much. It's 5:11 now, 20 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And we now know where Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre will run for a seat after failing to win on election night. Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney held his first news conference since his election win, and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre now has a path towards a seat in the House of Commons.
Yeah, it was a busy day on Parliament Hill. Sija Lou's been following all the developments. She joins us live. Let's begin with Mark Carney's remarks. What did he promise Canadians today, Sija?
Well, he laid out his priorities, and he also announced that he will be meeting with Donald Trump, and he also said that the king is coming to Canada. Let's talk about that meeting in Washington. It's happening on Tuesday at the White House. Mark Carney said that this will be a difficult conversation, but constructive. He said that this will be their first meeting in person since he was sworn in March. Carney also announced an upcoming visit from King Charles and Queen Camilla. King Charles will deliver the speech from the throne on May 27th to help open a new session of Parliament. And this will mark the first time a monarch has delivered the throne speech in about 5 decades. And in terms of his priorities, Carney says he will remove interprovincial trade barriers by Canada Day and says his minority government will not pursue a governing alliance with the NDP. Here's more from Carney on his upcoming trip to Washington.
There are two sets of issues. There are the immediate tariffs, both sectoral and so-called reciprocal and fentanyl tariffs. And then there is the broader relationship. So addressing both sets of issues. We'll see how that progress goes. It's important to get engaged immediately, which has always been my intention, has always been his intention. And I'm pleased to have the opportunity for quite a comprehensive set of meetings that will take place on Tuesday.
Meantime, Pierre Poilievre will get another crack at getting a seat in the House of Commons. A Conservative MP in Alberta is giving up his seat, so Poilievre could run in a by-election. This is after losing the race in Ottawa's Carleton riding, a seat he's held for 20 years. MP-elect Damien Kirk easily won Alberta's Battle River Crowfoot riding on Monday with more than 80% of votes. It's a safe Conservative riding, a seat he's held since 2019, but says he is giving this up because he wants to make sure the Conservative leader has a seat in Parliament. Now, Poilievre accepted Kirk's resignation and posted a statement on social media that reads in part, "I will work to earn the trust of the good people of Battle River Crowfoot, and I will continue to hold the Liberal minority government to account until the next federal election when we will bring real change to all Canadians." Now, today, Prime Minister Mark Carney says he will trigger a by-election as soon as possible. He technically has 6 months to do so, but Lena Bakari, he said he's not going to play any political games, and he will trigger that by-election as soon as possible.
All right, good to know. Sija, thanks so much for this. Sija Liu reporting live from our newsroom tonight. Well, more information is being released about the plan to hold a military parade on President Trump's birthday next month.
Detailed Army plans call for more than 6,600 soldiers, at least 150 vehicles, 50 helicopters, 7 bands, and potentially a few thousand civilians. The Associated Press obtained the planning documents, which are dated April 29th and 30th. They're a blueprint for the Army's long-planned 250th birthday festival on the National Mall. That just happens to coincide with Trump's 79th birthday, June 14th. The slides don't include any price estimates, but holding an event of that scale, that's expected to cost tens of millions of dollars.
A chimney has been installed on the Sistine Chapel ahead of the conclave to decide the next pope.
Starting May 7th, cardinals are going to vote on the successor to Pope Francis, who died Easter Monday. After every 2 rounds of voting in the chapel, the ballots are burned in a special furnace to show the outcome to the public. If no pope is selected, the ballots are mixed with cartridges containing chemicals to produce black smoke. When a decision's made, the ballots are mixed with different chemicals to create white smoke. Before the start of the conclave, cardinals are meeting to discuss the needs of the Catholic Church going forward and the type of pope needed to run it.
It is 5:17 now, 20 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, we'll take a look at some of the events happening in the city this weekend, including the Toronto Marathon and how to navigate traffic. Well, the Leafs are on to the second round after downing the Senators in Game 6.
The glove of Ullmark in behind the net. Domi digs it out. Here's Domi for Pacioretty. Scores! Max Pacioretty!
After Ottawa rallied from 2 goals down to tie the game in the third, Max Pacioretty scored to put the Leafs back in front. And William Nylander added an empty net goal, his second of the night, to seal a 4-2 victory. The Leafs win the series 4-2, and they'll now take on the Florida Panthers in round 2.
Ryan Furnish, co-host of the Talkin' Buds podcast, tells CP24 that he's not very optimistic about the second round.
I would love to keep the positivity going because everyone in the city's waking up and feeling great that the Maple Leafs finally got through the first round, and we're all happy, but I do have some bad news. I do think they are running into the best team in the NHL. The Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions for a reason. They can outskate you. They will out-hit you. They will outscore you. And they have one of the best goaltenders in the world.
And TSN Radio's Matt Cause says the Leafs will have their work cut out for them against the Panthers in this second round.
Round 2 is going to be far harder than round 1. The Florida Panthers are the perfectly built team for the playoffs. They can send wave after wave of big physical forwards that can check you, that can forecheck you. For the Maple Leafs, this opponent represents just such an incredible challenge for them.
Well, Florida and Toronto last met in the second round of the playoffs. That was in 2023. The Panthers winning the series in 5 games.
Well, the Blue Jays will try to make it 3 straight wins this evening as they kick off a series against the Cleveland Guardians.
And this one hit to deep left.
In the series finale against the Red Sox at Rogers Center, the Jays were trailing by a run in the 8th. That's when Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit a 3-run homer. Toronto wins the game 4-2 and take the series 2-1. Chris Bassett gets to start tonight for the Jays in the series opener against Cleveland. First pitch is 7:07.
Well, the annual Toronto Marathon will take over the city on Sunday.
More than 15,000 runners are going to lace up for the full marathon, half marathon, 10K run, or 5K run walk. It starts at Yonge Street, just north of Shepherd, at 7:30 in the morning, finishes at the Queen Elizabeth Building at Exhibition Place. The race winds through the city, resulting in dozens of road closures from 5:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon. A full list of closures is available on our website, CP24.com. And with that, it is going to be a busy weekend to get around the city.
Let's bring in CP24's adjuvant CA Bois for more on that. What advice do you have for drivers trying to get around all these events? And then, of course, as Bakari pointed out earlier in the day, a lot of construction, too.
Yeah, a lot of construction. And you know what? Your best bet, if you can leave the car at home, I would do that. You can use Go Transit TTC. No TTC lines are impacted this weekend. So it's definitely going to be the better way for commuters if they can get to that line. Now, if you're on Go Transit and you're using the Barrie line, we do know that that line is down this weekend. So you probably have to just drive and probably make your way into a little bit of the city, maybe head to the station at York Region and then get onto the subway. It's going to be very slow. The Gardner, not going to be an option, a really good option for you because of the long-term road work. This is the one that just started last week through Park Lawn. We have the long-term one that is between Jameson and Dufferin. That is also impeding your drive. You can use the Lakeshore, but that's going to be close for a stretch because of the Toronto Marathon. So headaches for commuters trying to navigate around the city. Just patience to get yourself through.
All right.
Back to you both.
CP24 traffic specialist Adjo Intia trying to help us navigate the city this weekend.
Yeah,
Thanks,
transit is going to be your friend. That is the message. If you can leave your car at home, that's a very good idea. Adjoa, thanks so much. In other news, Toronto Public Health is advising of a potential measles exposure at Ripley's Aquarium.
Yeah, TPH says an infected person was at the aquarium Monday, April 21st, between 1 in the afternoon and 7 in the evening. So anyone who attended the aquarium during this time, you're being asked to monitor for symptoms until May 12th. And there have been 3 measles cases in Toronto so far this year.
It's 5:24 at 20 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Well, a Toronto dad has broken a Guinness World Record. We're going to tell you how coming up.
Welcome back. People in the city will be lacing up their shoes and hitting the pavement for a good cause this weekend.
The Walk So Kids Can Talk will get underway at Ashbridges Bay Park Sunday, a 5-kilometer event. It helps raise funds for Kids Health Fund, which provides free mental health support to young people in Canada. The organization says its work is more important now than ever before.
There's a youth mental health crisis happening across this country, but the benefit is that Kids Health Phone is equipped to be there for every single one of those moments. I always say Kids Health Phone, while we have national scope and reach, there is nothing more local than being able to reach out to someone supportive in the exact moment of what you're feeling and from exactly where you are. So being able to meet those moments are incredibly important as young people are growing up.
And the Walk So Kids Can Talk will also help kick off Mental Health Week. You're going to be at the Ashbridges Bay location. Yep. I'm going to be hosting the event in Mississauga. It's all for a good cause, and some really, really important conversations take place at these events, so we're so happy to be involved.
A Toronto dad has claimed a Guinness World Record with the help of his 17-month-old son and a baby stroller.
It just kind of dawned on me one day. I was out there running, pushing the boys, and I just thought, hey, maybe there's some sort of record.
3, 2, 1, go. Go!
Brendan Neely just ran a kilometer in 2 minutes and 51 seconds while pushing a pram. That's nearly 30 seconds faster than the former record set by a UK man in 2022. Neely's a father of 2 and a firefighter with 15 years of experience in trail running and obstacle course racing. Look at that. Oh, my goodness. And his child is enjoying the ride. He spent 6 months training for this attempt, which involved a lot of rules. I gotta say, the kid is the best. That's the best for the kid involved in this.
He's happy.
Push a living individual, his son, who's going to be safely strapped into the stroller. The stroller cannot be modified in any way, shape, or form. He has to be in constant contact with the stroller for the full 1 kilometer, and he is not allowed to use the pram to support his body weight. He's got to be pushing that thing.
Well, Neely says that his young son, Jack, was perfectly content during the record-setting run. You saw him kicking his legs, so he was kind of happy. He's already eyeing another world record that will see him push both his sons in tandem.
Oh, my goodness. That is the best. It's 5:29 now, 20 degrees. This is Live at 5.
A man's been rescued after his small plane crashed into Lake Ontario near the Leslie Street Spit. We're going to have an update on the situation coming up in moments. A man's rescued after a small plane lands in the water near Tommy Thompson Park. We're going to have the latest coming up.
In another blow to the auto sector, General Motors is getting ready to cut its 3rd shift at the Oshawa assembly plant, citing Donald Trump's tariffs. The union says 750 workers will lose their jobs. We have more on the impact.
And Mark Carney holds his first news conference since Monday's election. And a Conservative MP in Alberta gives up his seat to allow Pierre Poilievre to run in a by-election. We've got the latest out of the nation's capital.
Plus, the Battle of Ontario is over after the Leafs clinched a win in last night's Game 6. But now they move on to the next challenge, taking on Florida in round 2.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Lena Latifat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. A man was rescued after a small plane crashed into Lake Ontario. This is near the Leslie Street Spit.
CP24's Steve Ryan joins us live with the latest update. We did hear from Toronto police, and we're learning a little bit more about what happened, Steve.
Yeah, Lena and Bakari, the 49-year-old doctor is fortunate to have suffered no physical injuries as his small plane crashed into Lake Ontario just after 2 o'clock this afternoon. So Toronto Police Marine Unit told us just a short time ago that the air traffic controllers over at Billy Bishop Airport contacted them just after 2 o'clock to advise that a plane with one occupant on board, they'd lost all contact with that plane. So the Marine Unit made their way out into the lake, and they recovered a man who had crashed into the lake with this plane. He had a parachute deployed from the back of the plane, and that certainly absorbed the crash as the small engine plane hit the water. There was other people out on the water as well that assisted with the rescue. Here's more from Toronto Police we heard from a short time ago here at the Marine Unit. Let's listen.
It's a very short time. I don't have the specific time, but I know our Marine Unit received a phone call from the Billy Bishop Airport directly here, indicating that they lost contact with the aeroplane. So as a result, they dispatched our Marine boats right away, started looking for the place. At the same time, I can tell you that several individuals seized this airplane trying to land at Ashbridges Bay, and that's how we were able to get there. And thankfully, there's several sailboaters in the area were able to take him onto their sailboats and quickly turn over to the Marine Unit.
The plane left Billy Bishop. It was on its way to Pembroke when the pilot had engine trouble, so he turned the plane around, and that was the time when he decided to deploy the parachute. Now, the police tell us that the plane is still submerged in the water, and they will work with Transport Canada tomorrow to haul the plane out from underneath. We'll send it back to you guys.
Okay, CP24's Steve Ryan. Steve, thanks a lot. Well, we also talked to CTV's aviation specialist, Phil Dirty, about the investigation into this plane crash. Here's what he said.
Well, what's going to happen is first thing they're going to do is they're going to recover the aircraft, and because of the parachute deploying, it probably reduced the amount of damage that the aircraft would have sustained when it hit the water. So what they'll do is they'll bring the aircraft up, put it on a barge, they'll take it back probably to Toronto Island, and they'll do a forensic audit on the aircraft to see what exactly happened. The Cirrus aircraft, I don't know if it's a Cirrus aircraft or not, but a lot of the smaller aircraft these days, they're very, very reliable. So something must have gone wrong to make them deploy the parachute.
Police are trying to figure out how and why a cube van wound up in the water near a boat launch in Mississauga today.
The vehicle was found submerged in the area of Lakefront Promenade, south of Cawthra and Lakeshore Road. It was shortly before 6 o'clock this morning. Well, crews pulled it from the water a few hours later. Police say that nobody was in the vehicle, so they're still investigating.
To Hamilton now, where one person has been taken to hospital after a stabbing at a downtown mosque. Police say it happened around 2:15 this afternoon when there was an altercation outside of the building that eventually moved inside. 2 other people have non-life-threatening injuries.
And police are looking for 2 suspects. Investigators say early information suggests that this was not a hate-motivated incident and that the victims and suspects, they knew each other.
A second man has been charged in the death of a Markham woman last summer, while charges against the first suspect have been upgraded.
59-year-old Ying Zhang went missing from the Woodbine and Steelcase Road area July 25th. Investigators found her body in Kawartha Lakes 4 days later. 26-year-old Changlin Yang was originally charged with second-degree murder, but is now facing a first-degree murder charge. New York Regional Police say that 53-year-old Fred Wee Lee has also been charged with first-degree murder. There are no outstanding suspects.
Peel police have made an arrest in a brazen daylight shooting that left one man dead in Brampton.
The victim was shot in a vehicle in the parking lot of a plaza near Bramley and Deeside Road near Sandalwood Parkway the afternoon of April 1st. He was pronounced dead at the scene. On Tuesday of this week, police executed a search warrant at a residence in the area of Airport Road and Humber West Parkway. 30-year-old Balreet Singh Gill was taken into custody and is now charged with first-degree murder.
York Regional Police are appealing for witnesses after an arson in Vaughan last month.
Investigators have released a security camera video of the incident. This happened April 5th at a plaza parking lot near Seals and Young. It shows a white Honda Odyssey entering the parking lot, stopping near a BMW. A suspect gets out of the passenger side of the Odyssey, pours something onto the BMW, and then sets it on fire. Well, police are seeking help identifying the suspect, and they're asking anyone with information to come forward.
Well, the Crown and defense want 15 months probation for a teen girl who pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the swarming death of a homeless Toronto man.
The girl, who was 16 at the time of Kenneth Lee's killing in December of 2022, was originally charged with second-degree murder. Her lawyers maintain that she was not the one who fatally stabbed Lee. The judge is set to sentence her May 16th. 8 teenage girls were charged in the case, 6 pleading guilty to lesser charges, 4 to manslaughter, 1 to assault, and 1 to assault with a weapon and assault causing bodily harm.
All right, it's 5:37, 20 degrees out there. Let's get a check on the commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa and Sayabwa. Busy out there now, and it's going to be a busy weekend, too.
It really is. So if you're making your way out, this is just maybe the calm before the traffic storm on the weekend. But if you're headed out, it's rush hours, so delays remain. And so do problems on the northbound lanes of the 400 lane. Now, this is right at the 407. Crews on scene of this collision that does have that left lane and shoulder blocked. It is very slow and very backed up from the 401. And, you know, it looks like we have some problems off to the side on the northbound 400 north of the 401. Not blocking lanes yet, but once emergency crews arrive on scene, they probably will. Some brand new problems on the westbound 401 in the Express. This is just as you make your way past Dufferin. Collision involving a truck that has the right lane occupied. And if you're traveling and headed towards the Don Valley Parkway, slow going Bayview Bloor up to Lawrence. That's because of this ongoing collision that is taking out the left lane. On City Streets, a collision on Kingston Road just south of the 401. Lena Bakari, I'll send it back to you.
It's now 5:38, 20 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Well, hundreds of workers are set to be laid off this fall when General Motors cuts the third shift at its Oshawa plant. We've got reaction coming up. Now on our top story. Sorry, go ahead, Bakari.
No, you go.
A man was rescued after his small plane crashed into Lake Ontario, near the Leslie Street Spit. And for more on this, we're joined by Doug Paulson, a witness of that plane crash. Good to have you on tonight. You happened to be out taking pictures of the lake when this happened. Tell us what your camera captured. What did you see?
Well, I was just at Ashbridges Bay and enjoying a little shots of the lake. Beautiful springtime. And I saw this plane came, and I'm a former pilot, so I always like taking pictures of planes. And there was an explosion that I did not capture. But then right after that, the parachute came out of the tail of the aircraft, and it fell into the lake. And these are the shots I got. And I'm so glad to hear that there was a survivor.
Doug, as a former pilot, what were you thinking when you were seeing this happen?
Well, I had no idea. The explosion was very weird, and I didn't capture that. Love to find out what that was. It looked almost like a setup for a shooting on a movie. And then when I saw the parachute, I thought first, yes, it was a surviving pilot. And then all of a sudden, I saw it was attached to the aircraft. So, and it was an aircraft that I had not seen before. I haven't. The ones that I've seen with parachutes didn't look like this. So I was surprised.
It's so interesting to get your perspective on this, given that you are a former pilot. We now know that the 49-year-old man in the plane is going to be okay. Remarkable, really. What did you see when it comes to how he was rescued?
Well, I'm just so happy that he survived. Obviously a single pilot. And of course, I'm an old timer. So parachutes for a plane are something I had no idea in my days. But it really is something when after that explosion, the plane slowed down and the parachute was enough to slow the aircraft to allow it to hit the water at a pretty good speed. But he obviously survived, so it's all good news.
Yeah, and Doug, as a former pilot, looking at this type of incident, are you ever prepared for something like this? I mean, I know you're trained, but come on.
Yeah, well, taking to the water is something I never really wanted to do, but I'm really quite impressed with the fact that he made it, which I'm very happy. And having flown in and out of the island a number of times, I would imagine he was kind of coming in to land on runway 26, but he obviously didn't make it. I'd be fascinated to find out what he comments on the nature of that explosion.
I'm just so fascinated by the fact that you were out taking pictures and then you happen to capture all of this. What's running through your mind as that's happening?
Well, I love the color of the water today, and it's spring for us old guys who don't get around much, and it was perfect. So I had my good old Nikon out with a long lens, and I was, taking a shot off my trike, and all of a sudden I see this aircraft, and I'm kind of slowly getting ready for it, and that's when the explosion happened. And then I started taking shots, and you see what I got. But it was just happenstance, just happened to be there.
Well, Doug Paulson, we thank you for your photos, and we thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Take care.
Good to be with you.
Well, General Motors says that it's planning to cut the third shift at its Oshawa plant, citing updated demand forecasts and the evolving trade environment.
For a closer look at what this means for workers and the community, let's go live to CP24's Melissa Duggan. Melissa.
Yeah, Lena, as you could expect, this is not welcome news in Oshawa. And you would also expect that workers in other industries are watching this closely as well. Ever since Donald Trump took office, this threat of tariffs, this ongoing U.S. trade war, people have been holding their breaths, wondering what exactly is going to happen. What sort of real-life impacts could we see here on our side of the border? And now it's starting to take shape. So what we're learning today at GM Oshawa, they're going to go from 3 shifts to 2 shifts, and that means more than 700 jobs will be cut. Those layoffs affecting more than 700 people, their families as well in this community. And that's expected to take place in sometime in the next 6 months. We're looking at the fall for the timeline there. And of course, it affects the community at large as well. We were talking with Oshawa's mayor earlier today about those impacts. Here's what he's telling us.
We've got to work with Unifor to be able to find out exactly how we can support those individuals that are being impacted by this decision. But General Motors and Unifor has demonstrated in the past that they've put a plan together in regards to the transition for those individuals that have been impacted. And this goes back to 2018-19 when the major announcement happened that they were going to close the plant altogether because of downward in the market. There was a plan there to be able to help people transition, not only about retraining, but also transition them into new positions. So I'm waiting to hear that, but I have a lot of confidence that the two parties have demonstrated in the past that they can work together.
Now, while this update from GM is expected to directly affect more than 700 workers, there are also those indirect impacts as well. What we're hearing from the union today is some 1,500 jobs might be affected as well in other areas. Think automotive parts, those supporting roles, a part of the supply chain service, basically, that leads to these vehicles being built here in Oshawa. A lot of emotional reaction is coming from the union today. I want to share some of that.
I'm pretty angry today, the same way that our members are, I can assure you. The reality is that this decision by General Motors is clearly being done to appease Donald Trump, to look out for themselves in this trade war and not their employees. And I remind General Motors, as I've done this week, they sell a hell of a number of cars in this country, and we expect them to build here.
So what kind of supports will there be for workers? That's something we're waiting to hear about. You know, we did hear from Ontario Premier Doug Ford today. He's saying that this is extremely tough news for those people in Oshawa, their families as well. And I want to point to something that we learned to earlier this week from the Ontario Financial Accountability Office, just talking about what all of these tariffs will mean for our province. They're estimating that more than 68,000 jobs will be affected here in our province this year alone. Back to you.
Okay, live in Oshawa, CP24's Melissa Duggan. Melissa, thank you. Right now it's 5:48, 20 degrees. This is Live at 5.
More news straight ahead. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
A boy has died after falling from a building in North York.
Officers were called to a building on Jane, south of Finch, just before 4:30 yesterday afternoon. A 6-year-old boy fell from a 10th floor unit and was rushed to hospital in critical condition this morning. Police confirmed the boy succumbed to his injuries. They are describing the incident as a tragic incident.
This lady over there, she has 2 sons. There's one 6-year-old and there's one a little bigger one. And I see them in the elevator all the time, but I didn't really know them.
Because sometimes they would be outside here playing, or if not, you see them going to school. But otherwise, we don't really know.
In a statement, a spokesperson for property owner Greenwood says, quote, "We are deeply saddened by yesterday's tragic incident. Our hearts and sympathies are with the family. We recognize this is a tremendously challenging time for the residents in our building. The safety and well-being of all our residents remain our utmost priority, and we are working closely with them to provide the support they need during this difficult time."
5:52, 20 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, if you're looking for something to do this weekend, the cherry blossoms in Hyde Park, they're close to peak bloom. We'll check in on their status next.
The Blue Jays will try to make it 3 straight wins tonight as they kick off a series against the Cleveland Guardians.
This one hit to deep left.
In the series finale against the Red Sox at Rogers Center, the Jays were trailing by a run in the 8th. That's when Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit a 3-run homer. Toronto wins the game 4-2, taking the series 2-1. Chris Bassett gets the start tonight for the Jays in the series opener against Cleveland. First pitch is at 7:07.
Well, the annual Toronto Marathon will take over the city on Sunday.
More than 15,000 runners are going to lace up for the full marathon, half marathon, 10K run, or 5K run or walk. It starts at Yonge Street, just north of Shepherd, at 7:30. It's going to finish at the Queen Elizabeth building at Exhibition Place. The race winds through the city, resulting in dozens of road closures from 5:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon. The full list of closures is available on our website, CP24.com.
Well, the Leafs are on to the second round after downing the Senators in Game 6.
The glove of Allmark in behind the net. Domi digs it out. Here's Domi for Pezzeretti. Scores! Max Pacioretty!
Well, after Ottawa rallied from 2 goals down to tie the game in the third, Max Pacioretty scored to put the Leafs back in front. William Nylander added an empty net goal, his second of the night, to seal a 4-2 victory. The Leafs win the series 4-2 and will now take on the Florida Panthers in round 2.
Ryan Furnish, co-host of the Talkin' Buds podcast, tells CP24 he's not very optimistic about the second round.
I would love to keep the positivity going because everyone in the city's waking up and feeling great that the Maple Leafs finally got through the first round and we're all happy. But I do have some bad news. I do think they are running into the best team in the NHL. The Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions for a reason. They can outskate you. They will outhit you. They will outscore you. And they have one of the best goaltenders in the world.
Well, it is cherry blossom season in Toronto with the cherry blossom trees in Hyde Park just about to reach peak bloom.
And for more on this, we're joined live by Rohit Rao, Acting Executive Director of the Hyde Park Nature Center. Thanks a lot for joining us. So we got to talk about this. When is peak bloom?
So we are expecting peak bloom to start anytime tomorrow. A bit of cool weather yesterday slowed things down, but the warmth today is chugging things along, and we expect peak bloom to start tomorrow.
I love the shot behind you. I can see the beautiful cherry blossoms, and this is such a favorite in Toronto. Can you give us a sense of how people should navigate these cherry blossoms? What are best practices?
So one thing we always like to remind people is take only photos and memories. Don't pluck the flowers. Don't break a branch to take home. Don't climb the trees for a photo op. It's because this really damages the blossoms, and we want the blossoms to be healthy for the next year. And this way, everybody gets to enjoy the blossoms. Some other tips to have is just have a litter-free experience in the park. Carry your litter out along with you and so on.
And in the last 30 seconds, we got to talk about the best way for people to get there because they can no longer drive through Hyde Park.
Yeah, so Peak Bloom in Hyde Park is a vehicle-free blooming experience. So the park is going to be closed to vehicles starting tomorrow, all the way through the end of Peak Bloom. This is why we really encourage people to take TTC and public transit to get to the park. This is also to avoid the stress and hassle of finding parking or dealing with the traffic. It's best to just take public transit and get to the park. If you're coming from afar, park at a commuter parking lot and take TTC all the way to Hyde Park.
Okay, some great advice there, and I'm sure it's going to be real busy this weekend. Rohit Rao, Acting Executive Director of the High Park Nature Center, thanks so much. You're watching Toronto's Breaking News, CP24.
Thank you for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.